Good afternoon. I am Ofonono Joseph, coming to you live from Oyo, the capital city of Akwa Ibom. This is Spotlight Africa, brought to you by Spectrum Television. Today on Spotlight Africa, ECOWAS chief makes surprise visit to Burkina Faso. Guinea-Bissau's ex-prime minister Pereira says will return to country to seek presidency. Tanzania opposition presidential candidate Luhaga Mpina barred from running for a second time. Former Kenya's deputy president declared bid to oust President William Ruto in 2027. Plus, Mali military escorts vehicles after militants attack fuel trucks. These stories and more are all just ahead on Spotlight Africa. Good afternoon once again, and many thanks for joining us on Spotlight Africa. First on Spotlight Africa is that Sierra Leone's president, Julius Maada Bio, has become the first leader of the West African bloc ECOWAS to visit a member of the Sahelian Alliance of States in a move analysts say signals a turning point in relations. Bio, who took over the chairmanship of ECOWAS in June, met Tuesday with Burkina Faso's junta leader, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, at the presidential palace in Kulaba. According to Sierra Leone State House, Bio committed to fostering closer ties and cooperation between ECOWAS and the Sahel Alliance during the one-day visit, where he vowed to make sure that peace returns to Burkina Faso. This comes after tense relations between the AES bloc and ECOWAS, the junta-led West African nations of Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso, formerly withdrawn from the regional bloc known as ECOWAS in January this year. State media in Burkina Faso reported that the talks touched on regional security and international relations. As analysts said, the trip reflects growing acceptance of the breakaway bloc. Away from that, Guinea-Bissau's former Prime Minister Domingos Simios Pereira is planning a return to the country and a run for the presidency. Simios Pereira, who leads the opposition African Party for the Independence of Guinea and Cape Verde, made the announcement in Lisbon, page C. He settled in the Portuguese capital shortly after President Embalo dissolved Guinea-Bissau's National Assembly in 2023. Speaking to the Guinea-Bissau diaspora, Simios Pereira said he feared for his safety in returning to the country, but said it was his duty to continue the fight. Meanwhile, Embalo said the opposition leader could return without any problem, but warned him against contesting the results of the November election. If he does run, this will be Simios Pereira's fourth attempt at the presidency. Moving now to Tanzania, where Electoral Commission on Monday said it had disqualified opposition presidential candidate Luhaga Mpina for the second time. Mpina leads the Alliance for Change and Transparency Act Wazalendo, the country's second-largest opposition party. The commission's move comes just a few days after Mpina successfully challenged a first decision in court to disqualify him. The court ruling had forced the commission to approve Mpina's nomination, a decision now reversed. The act Wazalendo dismissed the disqualification as baseless and politically motivated. Mpina's exclusion leaves President Samia Suluhu Hassan, who came into power without being directly elected after the death of President John Magufuli in March 2021, a clear run at next month's presidential election, with seemingly only candidates from minor parties allowed to compete. The leading opposition party, Chadema, was disqualified in April after failing to sign the Electoral Code of Conduct as part of its call for electoral reforms. Chadema's leader, Tundu Lissu, has been in jail for over 5 months after being charged with treason in April. He has denied the accusations. In another development, in a move that dramatically escalates its political tensions, former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has publicly declared his intention to challenge his former boss, President William Ruto, in the 2027 general election. Speaking in Muranga on Saturday, Gachagua positioned himself as the most courageous and capable candidate to end Ruto's presidency after a single term, setting the stage for a bruising political battle within the heart of the ruling coalition support base. He asserted that his bid was a response to a national demand, stating that Kenyans have determined that the individual with the courage and ability to defeat President Ruto is Rigiji. This direct challenge marks the culmination of weeks of intensified campaigning by Gachagua, who has been fervently courting support from his Mount Kenya backyard, a critical voting bloc that was instrumental in Ruto's 2022 victory. Meanwhile, a Kenyan High Court has issued an arrest warrant for a British national suspected of murdering a 21-year-old woman more than a decade ago. Agnes Wanjiru was killed in March 2012 and her body later found in a septic tank of a hotel in the central garrison town of Mayuki, nearly 3 months after she had allegedly spent an evening partying with British soldiers. Justice Alexander Muteti said prosecutors had provided sufficient evidence to request that the suspect appear before a Kenyan court for trial. The lawyer representing Wanjiru's family told newsmen that the ruling paved the way for proceedings to start for the suspect's extradition from the UK. The judge further directed that the identities of the accused and witnesses not be published. Recall that the UK's Ministry of Defence has previously said it is cooperating with a Kenyan investigation into the case, which has caused outrage in the East African nation. The family of Wanjiru, who left behind a young daughter, have long been fighting for justice. They live in Nanyuki, which is close to the British Army Training Unit, Kenya, Batuk, some 200 kilometers north of the capital, Nairobi. Elsewhere, a top police official who claimed that South Africa's police and justice system has been infiltrated by criminal syndicates took the stand Wednesday at a government-backed probe into the allegations. Recall that KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Lanlaha Mkhwanazi said at a news conference in July that some top politicians and police officials were interfering in sensitive police investigations in the interest of criminal syndicates and drug cartels. His claim caused a public outcry and led to the Commission of Inquiry being appointed by President Cyril Ramaphosa. South Africa's parliament has been separately investigating Mkhwanazi's claims. South Africa has one of the highest crime rates in the world, and allegations of corruption within the police are not new. However, it is unusual for high-ranking police officials to accuse each other of involvement with criminals. During his opening statement on Wednesday, Nkwanazi said he would show the extent of the threat to the country's criminal justice system. Moving now to Mali, where army on Wednesday escorted field and civilian convoys after Al-Qaeda-linked militants attacked dozens of fuel trucks on a vital trade route. Malian State TV reported that troops escorted 40 buses carrying people in Torodo in the country's southwest region. It said more than 30 tankers, lorries, and civilian vehicles from Senegal were also escorted this week. Militants affiliated with Al-Qaeda have burned and destroyed some 100 trucks transporting fuel to Bamako in recent days, according to a local trade union. Recall that the Jama'at Nostrat al-Islam wal-Muslimin, or JNIM, announced a ban on fuel imports from neighboring countries 2 weeks ago, in what analysts say poses huge risk for the fragile local economy and is a significant setback for Mali's military junta. Reports say the attacks mark a shift of tension to another part of the country, the south, which had been less affected in the past. Elsewhere, according to the French press agency, residents in the Tillabéri region in western Niger and that gunmen shot dead 22 people, most of which were attending a baptism. Nigeria's authorities have confirmed that an attack happened but did not release casualty numbers. 22 civilians were killed in an armed attack by a group of gunmen on motorbikes in western Niger on Wednesday, according to warriors, reports from media and witnesses. The attackers opened fire on villagers attending a baptism ceremony and killed 15 people there. They then left the vicinity and killed another 7 civilians close by. The region of Tillabéri in western Niger, bordering on Mali and Burkina Faso, is familiar with armed violence. Jihadist groups in particular are very active in the area, and the armed forces of Niger have been struggling to contain attacks from diverse jihadist movements. Last week, several soldiers from the Nigerian army were killed in attacks, which also took place in the Tillabéri region. It is estimated that around 20 soldiers died in at least 2 separate attacks on 10 September. Meanwhile, a recent Human Rights Watch HRW report drew attention to the violence in Tillabéri and called upon authorities to do more to protect civilians in the region. Still to come on Spotlight Africa. WHO begins Ebola vaccinations in DRC as outbreak spreads. Stay tuned for details of these and more after this timeout.
Broadening your horizon is what every living being not only genuinely desires, but heartily pursues and intentionally invests in. For in the gathering of men, only those whose minds are in tune with the dynamics of the past, present, and future innovations, inventions, politics, and governance are respected. AR, Spectrum Television, and broadening your horizon is our obsession. Rescan your decoder now to connect Spectrum Television on the frequency 12589, symbol rate 26250. That is frequency 12589, symbol rate 26250. Polarization horizontal, and join our online community at spectrumtvlive.ng. For further inquiries, please call 0704 158 5642 or 0704 541 7707. Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
Welcome back. This is still Spotlight Africa. Now we conclude the rest of our stories. In a separate development, the World Health Organization (WHO) has begun vaccinating frontline health workers and contacts of infected individuals in response to a new Ebola outbreak in the Democratic Republic of the Congo's DRC Kasai province. An initial 400 doses of the Ivebo Ebola vaccine have been delivered to Bulape, the epicenter of the outbreak, from a national stockpile of 2,000 doses. Reports say the International Coordinating Group on Vaccine Provision has approved the shipment of an additional 45,000 doses to help contain the spread. The outbreak, declared in early September, is the DRC's first in 3 years. The virus, which thrives in the country's dense tropical forest, has so far resulted in 32 suspected cases, 20 confirmed, and 16 deaths, according to the Health Ministry in Kinshasa. WHO Program Area Manager Patrick Autumn warned that the outbreak could expand, especially after a case was confirmed 70 kilometers from Bulape. He highlighted a moderate risk of cross-border spread, particularly to neighboring Angola. Away from that, authorities across Egypt are searching for a 3,000-year-old bracelet reported missing from a leading museum in Cairo. The rare gold band, adorned with spherical lapis lazuli beads, dates back to the reign of King Amenemope, a pharaoh of ancient Egypt's 21st dynasty who ruled from 993 to 984 BC. The Antiquities Ministry said it had taken immediate measures after the bracelet disappeared from the Egyptian Museum's restoration laboratory and that the case had been referred to police. An image of the bracelet has been circulated to all Egyptian airports, seaports, and land border crossings as a precautionary step to prevent smuggling attempts. A specialist committee has also been formed to carry out an inventory and review of all artifacts being kept at the restoration laboratory. The ministry said it had deliberately delayed announcing the bracelet's disappearance to ensure an appropriate environment for the progress of investigations, but it did not mention when the piece of jewelry was last seen. Egyptian newspaper Al-Misr Al-Yom reported that the disappearance was detected in recent days as museum staff were preparing to ship dozens of artifacts to Rome for an exhibition which is due to open next month. The Egyptian Museum in Cairo is the oldest archaeological museum in the Middle East. It houses more than 170,000 artifacts, including Amenemope's gilded wooden funerary mask. In a separate development, cocoa plantations in Cameroon are grappling with black pot disease in an outbreak that has been fueled by weeks of heavy rain. According to officials, relying on low-cost fungicides has not helped the situation. Cameroon's southwest region, one of the country's top cocoa belts, is grappling with black pod disease that is ravaging its cocoa plantations. A fungal disease, brown rot, or black pod disease ravages cocoa pods and trees and can thrive in wet conditions. With Cameroon having been struck by weeks of heavy rain, the disease has managed to spread significantly. Downpours have been intense since July, creating the prime conditions for the disease and exacerbating the outbreak in several cocoa-producing hubs, including Muyuka, Mbonge, and Kumba. A surge in counterfeit agrochemicals has also worsened the situation, according to officials and industry experts. According to officials, many growers are counting on low-cost, unverified fungicides smuggled from Ghana and Nigeria. And lastly, on Spotlight Africa, a group of 14 West Africans deported from the U.S. to Ghana have all been sent to their home countries of Nigeria and Gambia, a Ghanaian government spokesman said on Monday. The 13 Nigerians and 1 Gambian have left for their home countries. Authorities in Ghana defended accepting the deportees on humanitarian grounds. Ghana's Foreign Minister Samuel Okudezeto Ablakwa pushed back on criticism that the decision was an endorsement of U.S. President Donald Trump's migration policies, saying Ghana accepted the third country deportees purely on humanitarian grounds. At a press briefing in the capital, Accra, on Monday, Ablakwa said Ghana did not receive any financial compensation from the U.S. over the deportation. Nigeria's government said it was not briefed about its nationals being sent to Ghana and that previously it had received Nigerians deported directly from the U.S. Meanwhile, officials have pushed back on criticism of the deportation, whose legality has been questioned by lawyers of the deportees. This has been Spotlight Africa, brought to you by Spectrum Television. Do ensure to follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website, spectrumtvlive.ng. I am Ofonono Joseph. Good afternoon.